So we're here with Volvo Ocean race winner Ian Walker and America's Cup commentator. Ian, great opening day to the America's Cup finals yesterday, although a bit one-sided. Were you surprised to see the mistakes we saw yesterday?
Well, I was out on the water yesterday with Shirley on the rib, and I think maybe what you couldn't appreciate on the TV was just how shifty and gusty and light, big patches of no wind. So with what these boats are like in terms of, if you fall off the foils, how quickly you can use distance, I guess I wasn't that surprised. A little disappointed not to see closer racing, but I do think that a couple of knots of wind speed and it could be a different story.
It looks like we may have a couple of knots, although similar direction. Do you think there'll be those holes we saw yesterday? And if so, do you think they'll be changing their foil format at all?
I think that the forecast is actually slightly lighter, but as we can see out there, it is windy. It's been windier all morning, and yesterday was under forecast. So my feeling is we will have a little bit more wind, but as you can see in the background, it's right under the land, the windward mark. So I imagine there'll still be some pretty big holes and shifts, particularly near the top mark.
So other than the improvements to the boat that certainly Oracle Team USA will be trying to have made overnight, do you think their game plan, certainly Spittle's game plan, is going to be to go at Pete Burling in the pre-start? Were you surprised not to see that yesterday?
Well, I think he maybe did try yesterday, just didn't work out. I mean, I think maybe a little bit too much is made of the starts, because it's not like an old style match race where you come in and you do a dial up and you really have the opportunity to stop another boat from starting. This essentially is two boats, one will lead, one will push, and so it's all a question of how early you're prepared to lead. And that's where the risk comes in. Lead too early and you can get pushed below the ley line, or you can get pushed into being early for the start. If you get pushed, you have to react, or else you'll get hooked and then you can get forced head to wind. So I think Jimmy basically tried to lead early to try and have some kind of engagement, and that ended up with him being early at the line. And I think Pete's obviously did a nice job of staying out of trouble, but I think when there's wind, even if you lose the start, the boat behind is capable of just being, even if you're over, you're capable of being a couple of lengths behind. But what we saw yesterday was how it's quite hard to lose a couple of boat lengths. You've got to lose, the judges are saying you've got to lose 2 boat lengths. You fall off the foils, and before you know it, you've lost 20, and then they're in different wind and the race is over. So it's a lot of things that we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, compared to classic match racing, do you think that 2 boat length penalty is as harsh as it could be?
Well, I think it depends when you get it. A 2 boat length penalty for an infringement in the start doesn't seem like a big deal when it's windy. It seems like a big deal when it's light, because it's hard to just lose 2. A 2 boat length penalty on the last run, as we saw with the Artemis penalty at the windward mark, and in fact when they got penalised at the leeward mark coming to the finish, it's basically race over. I don't think, you might be correct if I'm wrong, I don't think we've seen anybody overtake after the last windward gate. Seems to be whoever leads round there. Not a lot is happening downwind, mainly because they run so low and so fast when it's windy. I might be disproving that. I'm trying to think in my head if I have seen it. Obviously that Artemis one was pretty close with Team New Zealand on the last run, but so it's like the penalty affects you more at different parts of the race.
Yeah. Although yesterday, Emirates Team in New Zealand did fall off their foils at that last gate rounding, as they did against Artemis. And on the second race, sticking with the match race theme, were you surprised that they didn't cover when Oracle Team USA had that massive shift going upwind? Are you surprised they weren't covering then?
Well, I was on the water, so it's quite hard to see, and obviously you can't just keep tacking to cover, and sometimes there is a danger you get too far ahead that you're out of sync, and maybe they just got a little bit lazy and thought, well, there's no way they're going to catch up 600 metres. That's what we were all thinking watching it, but things can change fast, and so maybe that's one thing we'll see change. But Pete's has made a few sort of goofs. He got the ley line wrong into the finish and gave everybody palpitations in the semi-final, and then that last jibe yesterday, so he is human, And I think maybe some of that is because he doesn't have that sort of tactician role. He's very much doing it himself. Whereas on the other boat, Tom Slingsby is maybe guiding, Jimmy a bit more. I mean, it would have been interesting yesterday if when Oracle caught up, if they'd maybe rolled into a jibe or they'd separated at the last mark, because it was just a shame that just after making that gain, they crashed off the foils and it was race over again.
Who's your bet on?
Well, from the outset, I said Team New Zealand if it's light, and possibly Oracle if it's windy. But I'm not really sure what is light and what is windy. Is 13 knots windy or is it 15 knots windy? But yeah, I mean, I think after what we saw yesterday with a similar forecast, you'd have to back Team New Zealand. But we have seen races where the slower boat has got in front off the start. I'm thinking of Land Rover BAR and that great race win they had in the semi-final, and I think Artemis also sailed that was in the semi-final, and then Artemis sailed one also a very good race against Team New Zealand where they basically got in front, and then Stevie kept saying on the TV yesterday, you get to choose which gate you want, and then you can put your elbows out, and they've got a choice of following or going the other way, and if you're right, they're wrong, then your lead can get bigger, and suddenly it's like, well, we've not got far to the end of the race. So I think it is possible for the slower boat to get in front and stick their elbows out, but Jimmy's got to get in front.
Ian, thank you so much for your time.